Welcome to The Explainer, where we go straight to the source to understand the big ideas. Today, we're tackling a really famous verse, one you've probably heard a million times, to see if the way we use it today, well, if it actually lines up with what it originally meant.
Ask those that have knowledge if you do not know. Sound familiar? Of course it does. It's this powerful go-to line, and it's almost always used to make one key point. You should listen to the experts, the religious scholars, and you shouldn't really question them.
Yeah, it's basically treated as this undeniable command straight from the source. It becomes the foundation, the pillar, for this whole idea of just deferring to the wisdom of scholars, imams, you name it.
But here's the big question. Is that what it's really saying? To figure that out, we've got to do what we always do here. We have to go back to the source material and see what the text actually says in its own context.
All right, so first up, the famous commandment. Let's break down how this one little phrase gets used and what kind of structure it supports.
So you see it used all the time, right? It's kind of wielded as this ultimate proof for a certain kind of religious hierarchy. The idea is, hey, knowledge is super specialized, so for regular folks like you and me, our job is just to follow the experts. This whole concept has a name, taqlid. It basically means following religious authorities without necessarily asking for the proof behind their rulings.
Okay, so that's the common use. Now, let's do what any good detective would do. Let's go straight to the evidence. It's time to take that tiny little quote and put it back where it belongs, in its original sentence.
And wow, look at that. It's like finding the missing puzzle piece, isn't it? When you just have that one little phrase, it seems like a straightforward rule for everybody. But when you snap it back into the full verse, you suddenly realize it's part of a very specific conversation. The context here? Well, it changes absolutely everything.
And get this, it's not even a one-off thing. There's a nearly identical verse in a completely different chapter, chapter 21. And guess what? It reinforces the exact same context. It's all part of this bigger discussion about what the prophets who came before were actually like.
So this brings us to the really crucial point, a message for the prophet. We have to ask, who was this message actually for? And what was the point of it? You see, the source material argues this wasn't some broad command for the public. Not at all. It was a direct message from God to the Prophet Muhammad, and it was meant as reassurance for him. The message was essentially, look, all the messengers who came before you, they were just men too. They were mortals. They ate food. They weren't immortal. It was a way of comforting him and normalizing his own experience.
And that just makes you think, right? It raises a really logical question. The Quran, in so many other places, tells people, hey, if you have a question, if you have a dispute, go directly to the Prophet. So why on earth would it also tell them to go ask someone else when the Prophet was literally right there with them? It doesn't quite add up.
So the argument here is pretty profound. If God is telling the Prophet himself to go and verify something, to check the facts, then what's the real lesson for the rest of us? It can't be blind faith. No, the takeaway is actually the complete opposite. It's the importance of doing your own homework, of self-verification.
And this idea isn't just some one-hit wonder. This is where it gets really interesting. It's actually a massive theme that runs through the entire text. Let's look at the case for verification. I mean, look at this verse. It could not be clearer. It's a direct command to not follow something if you don't have knowledge of it. It says that you, personally, will be asked about your hearing, your sight, and your heart, your mind. You're going to be held accountable for using the tools God gave you to figure things out for yourself.
And the ultimate role model for this? Prophet Abraham. His story is basically the blueprint. Think about it. He didn't just blindly accept what his parents and his community believed. He questioned everything. He used his own eyes, his own mind, to search for the truth. And he wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo, even when it was dangerous. His story teaches that real faith is born from investigation, not just from being born into a tradition.
So you have this really strong theme of check for yourself, and it's constantly put up against this other, very dangerous idea, blindly following human leaders. The text draws a really clear line in the sand. And the warnings are so specific. The source points to verses like this one, which flat out criticizes people from the past for taking their rabbis and monks as lords. What does that mean? It means they started treating the words of their religious leaders as if they were the words of God. A huge, huge problem, according to the text. And then it shows you the final outcome, the consequences. It paints this picture of the day of judgment, where people are filled with regret, literally saying, we just obeyed our leaders and our big shots, and look where it got us. They led us completely astray. It's a powerful warning about where that path of blind obedience can lead.
Which brings us to our final section. And honestly,
This is a bit of a mind-bender. Let's talk about the ironic twist here.
Okay, so let's just step back and look at this. The central irony is just staggering. You have a verse where God is literally telling the prophet to go verify something for himself. And that's the verse that gets used to tell everyone else to stop verifying and just follow blindly. It's the complete opposite of the original principle.
And that's the really provocative thought this whole explainer leaves us with. If the very core of the message is about seeking knowledge and verifying it for yourself, then you have to ask a really important question. Who benefits from telling you not to? When a text champions inquiry, what does it mean when someone uses it to demand silence? That's something to think about.